Nicknames in basketball surround us everywhere we go. For example, this basketball here we often call the Rock or the Pill, and sometimes the three-point line we call the Arc. For the basket itself, we often call it the Hoop, the Rim, or the Rack. So yes, there are a lot of nicknames that surround the sport of basketball itself, but today I want to focus more on the players themselves. I find player nicknames very fascinating, very entertaining, and very fun. So let's get into it. Before we get started, my main rule for this video is that I'm not going to include abbreviations as nicknames, like AI, MJ, LBJ, KD. I'm not going to do that. I feel like those aren't nicknames, or those aren't good enough nicknames to be in this video, if that makes sense. I could spend over half of this video talking about abbreviations, but I just won't do it. I'd rather talk about Air Jordan than MJ. Does that make sense? All right, moving on. So the first thing I'm going to talk about in this video is, of course, we got to start off with LeBron James, and he has so many different abbreviations. King James, LBJ, Chosen One, the Little Emperor, the Akron Hammer, L Train, Benjamin Buckets, Captain L'America. All right, so I'm getting these nicknames from Basketball Reference, so some of these might be a little obscure, and I'm not going to talk about all of them in full, obviously, but the one I do want to talk about is King James, kind of like the King James version of the Bible. I think King James is the most popular one in my eyes because that was what LeBron James was marketed as his entire career. He was marketed as the new king of basketball. Well, the next heir to the throne of basketball. And I just want to say that it's kind of wild. It will always be wild that LeBron James not only lived up to this expectation, but he exceeded it and then some. Because King James is a wild nickname to give to someone that was in high school. And LeBron James has bought into that King James nickname so much that he even made it a part of his logo. As you can see, the crown over here. Not every athlete buys into their nickname or likes their nickname, and some nicknames that are cooler don't often stick, in my opinion. We'll get to that a little bit later. Meet Jason Kidd here. Now, he goes by J Kidd. Some people call him Mr. Triple Double, but I'm going to focus on Asin Kidd, which was a nickname that they gave Jason Kidd early in his career because he had no J, and no J is short for no jump shot. You see, in his first 2 seasons as an NBA player, Jason Kidd could not crack 39% from the field. He shot under 39% from the field. And as you can see, Jason Kidd was not the best shooter for the first half of his career. And yes, he was eventually able to become a good shooter by the end of his career. But yeah, that first half of his career, especially when he was in Dallas, they called him Asin because he had no J. And the nickname stuck because it took such a long time to get over that nickname. Sometimes you can have a really cool nickname option, but you might not be on board with it. Meet Kevin Durant. Now, Kevin Durant has had many nicknames, some of them being Durantula and KD. But today, I want to talk about the nickname of the Slim Reaper. The Slim Reaper was a nickname that got a little bit of traction in around 2014, but then it came out that Kevin Durant really didn't like that nickname, and everybody was like, wow, that's one of the coolest ones I've ever heard, honestly, but KD didn't like it. Everyone thought that was the perfect encapsulation of Kevin Durant being slim, first of all, and being so cold, a stone cold killer on the basketball court, that Slim Reaper, we couldn't give that nickname to anyone else at the time, but Kevin Durant was just not on board. Kevin Durant eventually got on board with the nickname, but it took him 7+ years to do it. When asked about why Kevin Durant likes the Slim Reaper nickname now, he said, because I'm skinny and I do my work at night. Works for me. At times, a nickname can spark a beef. Meet Dwight Howard and Shaquille O'Neal. Now, Dwight Howard and Shaquille O'Neal have been both called Superman in the past. This really made Shaq not like that, because Shaq was the first Superman out of the two. All of this was a big catalyst for a beef that started so long ago that ESPN's website used to look like this. Now, their years-long feud has reportedly been put to rest, as Shaq is going to walk Dwight Howard into the Hall of Fame. Will it last? I'm not sure. I feel like all it's going to take is for one person to yell Superman and they both turn, and then it just gets right back to where we were. I don't know. For the next couple of minutes, I'm going to talk about nicknames in the form of categories, so let's move on to the weapon range. The weapon range is a collective of basketball nicknames named after guns or weapons. So, for example, you have Pistol Pete Maravich. With Austin Reeves and Andrei Kirilenko, their nicknames involve their jersey numbers, and Andrei Kirilenko used to wear the number 47 when he was in Utah, so they called him AK-47, while Austin Reeves wears the number 15 for the Lakers, so they naturally call him AR-15. Now, Juancho Hernan Gomez has his own really cool story about why we call him the Cruise Missile. In 2022, Hernan Gomez starred alongside Adam Sandler in the movie Hustle. The movie's about a scout, Adam Sandler, who needs to basically bet it all on this prospect. I don't want to spoil the movie entirely. It's a really good movie, but Hernan Gomez played a character by the name of Bo Cruz. And so we started calling him Bo Cruz and Cruise Missile in real life because that's what we called him in the movie. And Bo Cruz wasn't the only example of a player we gave a nickname from his role in the movie. Ray Allen, we gave his nickname Jesus Shuttlesworth from his role in the movie He Got Game. And while we're on the topic of movies, I do want to talk about how fascinating it is to me that this Kronos nickname that they gave Damian Lillard in Space Jam 2 did not stick, in my opinion. I mean, we already had Dame Time, so we're not beating that. And why didn't they just go with Dame Time? Why did they have to go with Kronos? Like, calling Anthony Davis the Brow, I get, but Dame Time Kronos, I wasn't rocking with it. Like Austin Reeves and Andrei Kirilenko, some other nicknames do have numbers involved in them. There's Chris Paul and Candace Parker, who both go by the nickname of CP3. Now, there are debates that people have that Candace Parker is the real CP3, and there are other people that say that Chris Paul is the real CP3. And over in the back here, you have Dalton Connect, who wears the number 4, so his nickname obviously is Connect 4 after the game that I'm actually surprisingly very good at. And to round off the number section, I want to talk about Gilbert Arenas, who wore the number 0 and got the nickname Agent 0 before he pulled a gun in the locker room and tried to go full Agent 47. If you haven't played Hitman, I'm sorry, that was a Hitman reference. The next batch of nicknames moves on from the number and goes to the place where people are from. For example, Dyson Daniels is from Australia, and we call him the Great Barrier Thief because he can steal the ball very well. And I think that this is the coolest nickname in the league going around right now. I think Great Barrier Thief is probably the best nickname out. It doesn't get better than this. Steve Nash, we used to call Hair Canada because of his long hair and the fact that he was from Canada. Serge Ibaka, his nickname is Air Congo. And as is the norm with a lot of NBA players, their heritage means something to them. As you can see, Serge Ibaka wearing the Congo flag while holding the Larry O'Brien trophy after the Raptors winning the championship. Hello, this is Ersan Ilyasova, next to Giannis Antetokounmpo. Do you want to guess his nickname? It's Turkish Thunder. I just found that fascinating, so I left it in the video. I now want to move on to the Greek Freak. Now, one, having a nickname that rhymes, already ahead of the pack. And I think this is the perfect nickname for Giannis, just like Great Barrier Thief is for Dyson Daniels. The fact that Giannis has a freakishly long wingspan and athleticism, the name just fits. Now, did that nickname originate first because people couldn't say his name correctly? I'm not so sure, but as someone that's born from someone that immigrated into America and has a foreign name, it wouldn't surprise me. Dude, I'm telling you right now, I get called Kofie so much by people that don't know that my name is Kofie. So now I want to bring up one "Where Are You From" nickname that I wish went to someone else. And it's about the Stifle Tower. The Stifle Tower was a nickname given to Rudy Gobert, and it made sense. He was French, and he was able to stifle all of these shots at the rim. I really, 1,000% wish that we could just give that name to Victor Wembanyama, because it makes sense, and I think that Wembanyama is just the more likable player. This is a nitpick from me, so don't take it too seriously, but I wish that the Stifle Tower was actually Victor Wembanyama's nickname. Rudy Gobert was literally ahead of his time. Literally ahead of Wemby's time. Anyway. Now, not every nickname was just directed at one player. Sometimes they were named after a group or a lineup. For example, on the far left, you can see Run TMC, which stood for Tim Hardaway, Mitch Richmond, and Chris Mullin of the Golden State Warriors. They headlined one of the most exciting teams of that era. Also staying on the Warriors train, we have the Splash Brothers over there, Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. The Splash Brothers of Steph Curry and Klay Thompson were given their nickname because of their uncanny ability to shoot the ball. And for that time, and maybe all time, there will never be two shooters that good on the same team ever again. Moving on from trios and pairs, you can give the whole team a nickname. There's the Showtime Lakers, head by Earvin Magic Johnson. Magic's probably the most iconic nickname that exists in the NBA history. Magic Johnson. He had that before he even got into the league. I think it's the most iconic nickname. Then you have Blake Griffin, who was a part of the Lob City Clippers, a team that threw so many alley-oops that they had to name the entire city after it. And last but not least, on the far right, you have Jamal Mashburn, Jason Kidd, and Jim Jackson, who we went by Triple J for the Dallas Mavericks. I should have put that in with the trio part, but yeah, sorry. From NBA teams, we can go get Olympic with it. We then have the Dream Team of 1992, a team that was so good and that we never thought was going to be possible, because before then, Team USA was sending college basketball kids over to the Olympics, and then when they lost, the United States said F it and then sent their pros. And then the Dream Team set the bar so high that every time that USA basketball was in the Olympics, winning gold was the only option. So when the 2004 US team did not do that and failed kind of spectacularly, the Team USA of 2008 had to lock in and get their best once again. And we called that team the Redeem Team. Redeem the Dream. And if you have not seen Team USA 2008 Olympic basketball highlights, you should go do that. It's some of the most incredible basketball I've ever witnessed in my life. Team USA is not the only international team with a nickname. The New Zealand team up there, they're called the Tall Blacks, which is the tall version of their rugby team, which is called the All Blacks, for how they wear all black uniforms and scare the absolute crap out of every other rugby team in existence. Team Australia's basketball team calls themselves the Boomers, named after a male kangaroo. It's fitting. Now I'm going to take the time to talk about some of my favorite NBA nicknames. We're going to start off with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. They call him the captain. I heard him be called the captain in winning time, and they just called him the captain. Sometimes they called him Captain Hook, which Captain Hook like Peter Pan, bro. That's nice. Now, the Ben Simmons one I'm going to explain, because the reason why is that when Ben Simmons started wearing the number 10, people started calling him Ben 10. And for all that Ben Simmons has gone through in his career, I feel like Ben 10 is the coolest thing to come out of that career, in my opinion. Phil Jackson, I think, has the best coaching nickname. They call him the Zen Master for his style and approach to coaching, and it led to a lot of success, and he earned that nickname through and through. Now, on the far bottom left, we have Bam, who goes by, well, the nickname, they call him the onomatopoeia for some reason. It stuck because Bam, you know, I think the nickname has stuck. Jamal Murray, they call him the Blue Arrow because of his arrow celebration, which is one of my favorites in the league. The Claw is Kawhi Leonard. For all that Kawhi Leonard has gone through over these last couple of years, he's had the best nickname, one of the best nicknames in the league. The Claw, how it represents his ability to defend and have just a wild, crazy wingspan, I've always liked. David Robinson is not one of my favorite players, but I do like the fact that we call him the Admiral because he served on a Navy ship before he played basketball, because you can't give that nickname to other people. I mean, you could if they worked in the Navy and then were able to hoop very well. But yeah, no, the Admiral, I think, is a very unique nickname approach. Then again, there's White Chocolate. Do I have to explain myself here? Jason Williams. Then there's Nick Van Exel, who goes by Nick the Quick. Now, this happened after the Showtime Lakers, so the fact that Nick Van Exel was able to have his own kind of nickname while on the Lakers as well, I liked it. He played a little bit before my time, but I respect the nickname a lot. Now, the end of the video, I want to go to the reason why I even made this video in the first place, because there was a little bit of a nickname trend that was happening a couple of weeks ago as I make this video, and it all started from Jason Tatum. Jason Tatum, people were calling him the Anomaly on Twitter, and a lot of people started going, what was that? I'm sorry. Because we never really signed off on it as a society. And Jason Tatum was asked about the Anomaly, and he says, I don't like that, and he'd rather be called Big Deuce. Okay. This in turn led to a lot of other fan bases trying to get nicknames to stick for their favorite players. So Brooklyn Nets, they tried to call Cam Thomas a Singularity. There was a campaign to change Cade's nickname to the Paradox. And then on the bottom left, you can see that they tried to call Dyson Daniel the Outback Outlier, which, I mean, you can't beat Great Barrier Thief, okay? The Pacers tried to call Tyrese Halliburton the Difference. It just became such a meme because these are all unserious, right? These are all unserious and just funny enough to know that none of these nicknames are going to stick. I think Bam, the Onomatopoeia, that one might have been involved in this, and I think that one did stick because it actually is really cool. And calling Evan Mobley the Predicament, no, none of these stuck, in my opinion. And more of these nicknames were perfectly documented in full in a GQ Sports article. They did a really good job of rounding that part up in terms of all the sports nicknames in that trend. If there are any nicknames that you think that I should have added, that should have been must added, feel free to let me know. You know I love making these kind of deep dive videos about random sports things that fascinate me. I try to make fun, unique content for you guys, and I'm excited to keep pushing those boundaries of sports and sports video games. But I don't always just talk about sports. Recently I took a trip to Japan, and I started to share parts of that journey at a new home. A home where you can get my videos early and ad-free. A home that houses brilliant content like Bobby Broccoli's science documentaries, Mapify's essays on sports and geography, and the urban environment expertise of City Nerd. That home is today's sponsor, Nebula. Nebula is a creator-owned streaming service that I have recently joined. It houses top-tier content from some of the best creators in the world. You'll also find access to the many Nebula originals that are exclusive to the platform. One that I'm looking forward to is Bobby Broccoli's new movie, 17 Pages, which will talk about one of the largest controversies in scientific history. The best way to support me is by signing up for Nebula with my link. There you will get a 40% discount off of an annual subscription, which is $3 a month. A nice portion of that money will go directly to me as long as you are subscribed, which will help me up the quality and quantity of the content that you'll get from me. Support me and the many other awesome creators today by signing up for Nebula. Thanks for watching, y'all.